Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shra Omakyant Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Janmadyasya Yatunvaya Ditarata Shtarite Shrabhigya Swarat Tene Brahma Hridhaya Radhikavaye Muhyanti Yasurayah Tejo Vari Mridam Yatavani Mayo Yatra Trisargo Mnisha Dhamna Svena Sadhana Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, the Hansa Dutta prayers. Continuing. Yeah. Let's put this down. So in the last verse of the Hamsa Dutta prayers, it was being explained that the actions of our intelligence and mind and senses cannot actually ascertain the Swarup of the Lord. So whatever the unempowered faculties of buddhi, manas, indriya, and so on ascertains, even when they say it is God, it is not God, at least not in his Swarup. So everyone in the material world, they speak of God and of other high topics, but unless their faculties are empowered by the Shakti, which reveals that transcendent reality. And as far as Gaudiyas are concerned, that Shakti is bhakti. Bhakti amam abhijananti yavam yashtasmi tattvataha. Krishna says, through bhakti, one can know me or one can know Tat. Tat means Brahman. So to know Brahman or to know the Purushottama, the Supreme Person, one needs bhakti for both. So one's faculties need to be empowered by that Shakti, which reveals that reality. So if one's faculties are not empowered, then whatever they're speaking or thinking about or ascertaining with intelligence, that is all Maya. Krishna is beyond Maya. So how can those faculties understand what is beyond Maya? Tribir Gunamaya Bhavari Bhisabram Idam Jagat Mohitam Na Abhijananti Mam Ebhya Paramavyaya. Krishna says this thing also in Bhagavad Gita. So then this leads to a hypothetical doubt that, well, if the world of matter is not part of the Swarup of the Lord, then there's something that exists outside of the Lord, or he is somehow incomplete because he doesn't possess this part, right? If he doesn't possess matter also, or he is not matter doesn't exist in him or is separate from him, then he is incomplete. So in order to, so first of all, the denial of matter in the Lord is to maintain his transcendence. But by denying matter, by denying some relationship of matter to the Lord, then it makes it seem that the Lord is incomplete. So this is like the Purva-paksha. So in answering that sort of hypothetical doubt, this next verse is spoken, which is here on the screen, 6.430, to show that nothing actually can exist outside of the Lord. So this is the verse. Yasmin yato ye nacha yasya yasmai yadyo yata kurite karyate cha paravaresham paramam prakrasiddham tabramata detur rananyadekam. So the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, is the ultimate resting place and source of everything. Everything is done by him, everything belongs to him, and everything is offered to him. He is the ultimate objective, and rather acting or causing others to act, he is the ultimate doer. So this is the translation of the first line, or this part here. So in most languages, they have these different cases to express the relation of things to other things, such as the locative case, right? You might have heard this language. I don't know if you study Latin or or you study English properly, which I didn't do. But you have like the locative case, the ablative case, the dative case, right? These different cases are there to express the relationship of things to other things. The instrumental case, the accusative case, nominative case, these different cases are there. They're also there in Sanskrit. So here, these different cases are being used to express the relationship of everything to the Supreme Lord, Brahman. So Yasmin is the locative case. So that means, because the subject of the verse is the Lord, Yaha here is the nominative case, which means the subject of the statement. So the subject is Brahman, right? The subject is Brahman. So now what is the relationship of things to this Brahman? So Yasmin is the locative case. So it means, the location of something. So Brahman, or the Supreme Lord, is that reality in whom everything is existing. Everything is located in God and Krishna. We see many pastimes like this in Krishna Lila, also in Gaur Lila. So everything is located in God. Yataha, this next one is the ablative case. It means from whom everything is coming. So everything that exists in this world has some prior cause. And if you keep chasing the causes of those prior causes, then you come to the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate cause of everything. Prabhupada is also quoting this in the purport, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Ardir Govinda Sarva Karina Karinam. So he's the uncaused cause of everything. So Yataha means from whom everything is coming. Yena here is in the instrumental case. So the instrumental case means, the instrument that you use to accomplish something. Or the instrumental case can mean like the company that someone is having. And the instrumental case will also be used. So Yena here means the Lord is by whom everything is coming. He is an instrument that brings everything into being, or he is the one that accompanies everything in existence. They say two's company, three's a crowd. Well, this three always has to be there because it cannot but be. God is everywhere located. So, he is Yena, by whom everything is coming, by whom everything is accompanied. Okay, so this yasya here is the possessive case. So to whom everything is belonging. That's how Prabhupada has it here in the word-to-word meaning. It is of God. Everything is of God, or God's, apostrophe S. That's how we use it in English, the possessive case. So everything that exists belongs to the Supreme Lord. Yes, my refers to it as the dative case. So it means unto whom everything is offered. So Brahman is the reality unto whom everything is offered. Like in Daksha Lila in the fourth canto, Daksha became upset because Shiva didn't offer him obeisances. But he was having darshan of Supreme Lord, Brahman, Paramatma, in his heart. Satvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. It was in that Vasudev state by which the Supreme Lord manifests without any covering. That verse says this thing. So he was offering his obeisances unto Brahman. And Prabhupada and the Acharyas, they actually point out when we offer obeisances unto anyone in this world, it is actually unto the Paramatma who is situated therein, and not to the person directly. So because Shiva was offering obeisances to Brahman already, to the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, there was no need to separately offer to Daksha. But Daksha got offense due to dualistic consciousness. So one thinks, I am the object of the obeisance. Actually, this word yet here, this is the accusative case. So it means a direct object of an action. So if you say, I brought the horse to the water. So the water is in the accusative case. He's a direct object of like a verb. So God is a direct object of everything. So yes, my unto whom everything is actually offered to the Supreme Lord. The living entities, we are in dualistic consciousness. We suffer from Pritak Bhava, the spirit of separateness from God, because we're unaware of God. So we think I'm the object of the obeisance or the worship. Just like I used to remember growing up when these superstars would win awards like Grammy Awards or Emmys or so. I used to remember particularly the Black artists, because, previously the Black church was like a big deal. Even in some ways, to some degree, it still is like that, although it's going down very fast. But when I was growing up, the Black church was not a joke. If you talk about anything spiritual, but didn't mention Jesus, they'll let you know, what about Jesus? It was like a very serious thing. So I used to see with like Black artists, particularly when they would win like Grammys or some awards, some sports trophy or whatever, first person they would thank is God. That was like very common thing. They would say praise Jesus or praise Jehovah or whatever they were, whoever they were worshiping. And they said, only by his power I was able to do. They would say like this. But then as they got more and more popular, and now Hollywood culture is real demonic. So as they got more popular, they never mentioned God. First it'd be first year they would start with God, then family, friends, like that. Then second year they would start with family, then fans, and then God would get some mention at the end. Then by third year, fourth year, when they become accustomed to winning their war, God was never even mentioned. So then they become forgetful. They think, oh, I am the, object onto whom everything is offered, this praise and this stuff. And that way we get trapped in dualistic consciousness and forget about the Supreme Lord. But here, this verse is telling us through all these different cases, the locative, ablative, instrumental, possessive, dative, accusative, nominative case, that actually there is only Brahman. That is what it wants to say here. There is nothing that exists but Brahman. That is actually the meaning of Advaya Gyan Tattva. Right? Advaya means non-dual. So the non-dual, anyway, we'll come to that at the end of the statement here also. But this is the point, that actually there is nothing that exists but Brahman. Brahman is that reality in whom everything is existing, from whom everything is coming, by whom everything is done, of whom everything belongs, onto whom everything is offered. This is the meaning here. Ita kurute karyate cha. Kurute karyate cha means some actions are done for oneself and some actions are done for others. So Brahman is also performing actions for his own self, actions for others. I think there's a meaning here. I actually forgot from my notes. So there is nothing that exists but Brahman. So devotees must keep this in mind also. The personality of Godhead that we worship, he has a swarup that looks like a human's form. Avajananti mamuda manushantanu. And normal people, because we say that they derive God as some creature of nature, they think he's some creature of nature. And devotees or religious people in general, they also think God like that by default, because we are in ignorance. So we also, if God has some form, then it's inconceivable that there can be a form that exists everywhere. That concept is not possible for the mind to actually wrap itself around. It's easy by logic to conceive of God as impersonal. That is a lot easier, actually. You can come to that conclusion by logic. That's why Prabhupada often writes in his books. By Gyan, you can come utmost to the conclusion that God is impersonal. Because it makes sense that if God is an infinite reality, that he should not have any form, which has so many limitations. But that there can be a form that contains everything in it and from whom everything has come, all the cosmos, how you can, the mind is like, that doesn't make, that's like a contradiction of terms. That's not possible. But here, that's what we're being informed. So the God that we worship is not the gods of the Vedic pantheon, or, the, what do you call it? The Thor, Odin people. What's that? Celtic? Is that Celtic? Something like that, whatever. But Krishna is actually, he is Brahman. So everything we look at, everything we're doing, everywhere we're moving, it is only happening in Brahman. It is happening for Brahman. It is happening by Brahman. That's how we should think. Devotees should think like this also. This is the foundation of our, for example, we have concept of Yukta Vairagya, right? Yukta Vairagya means Anansaktasha Vishayan Yatarha Upayunjata. What is that? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchata. So we say that without being attached to the objects and engaging with them in accordance with our seva, knowing that everything is having its relation to Krishna, then we practice Yukta Vairagya, renunciation through the engagement to Brahman. So what the basis of such a concept like that is this vision that everything is actually Brahman. That's how it becomes possible. The reason I don't enjoy the objects separately, Anansaktasha Vishnya, because they belong to Brahman, right? And it is a transgression to enjoy someone else's property without asking permission, right? So that is you have to have this vision to think like that. So when you have Pritak Bhava, you don't see like that. So you see, oh, this is no one is claiming this object. Oh, it is my object, then I will enjoy it. That's how we think. It's inevitable. Just like if you find $100 on the floor, unless you know to whom it belongs, or unless you're a renunciate of a high level, then you will say, oh, $100 is here. You look around, looks like no one is claiming it. So I will be the claimant. I'll enjoy it. But if you have this vision, Brahman, that actually this is Brahman also in this particular feature, then you could practice Yukta Vairagya, for example. Or we have to show respect to everyone, saying that they are Krishna Adishtan. They are the residing place of the Lord. So everyone is seeing with equal vision from this perspective, right? What is that? Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavi Haistini Shuni Chaiva Shwapakvicha Pandita Samardarshina. There's another verse also. What is that verse from? We'll come to it. 6th canto, chapter 4. Narayana Parasarve Nakutashtana Bibhyati Swarga Apavarga Narakeshu Api Tulya Artha Dharshinaha. You know this verse. We'll come to this in 6th canto later. Who is that? Chitraketu, he gets cursed by Parvati because he cut some joke with Shiva. You know, Shiva was cool with it, but Parvati couldn't tolerate. So she cursed him, you go to hell, literally. And he was like, yeah, no problem. You misunderstood me, but I will take the curse. In essence, you'll see his statements are very extraordinary, but he says this thing in essence. And then Shiva goes on to glorify Chitraketu, just see his consciousness that you've cursed him to go to hell. But he's not bewildered by that because why? Narayana Parasarve, he surrendered to Lord Narayana. Nakutashtana Bibhyati, so he has no fear of anything. Swarga Apavarga Narakeshu Apitulya Artha Darshina. He looks upon heaven and hell, Swarga Apavarga, and liberation with an equal eye, because all of it is Brahman. Another example of this, 1st canto, Parikshit Maharaj gets cursed to die in 7 days. A little bit disturbing. You can only imagine someone curse you to die in 7 days for a small thing. You will be disturbed. But Prabhupada points out, actually he quotes this verse also, Narayana Parasarve. He points out that Parikshit Maharaj was thinking, that Supreme Lord appeared before me in the womb of my mother to save me from the Brahmastra weapon. So he can do that if he wants to. So if he's not saving me from this curse, then that same Brahman has come to me in the form of this curse of a Brahmin boy. So why should I protest? So we only protest because we have Pritak Bhava. So we don't see God is there. So we say, we show our might and we counteract. You want to curse me to die in 7 days? I curse you to die in 3 days. How about that? You won't even get to enjoy seeing me die. We counteract because the Pritak Bhav is there. We retaliate. But the devotee is not retaliating. The same Supreme Lord who's rescued me in the womb is also come in the form of a curse. Why I should protest? So in this way, this is the oneness vision of the devotees. We say Chinta Beda Abhay Tattva, right? So devotees, we mostly focus on the Abhed part. We hardly focus on the Abhed part. So as long as we don't focus on the Abheda part, also, if that doesn't get integrated into our psyches, then our devotions will have a dualistic nature in it. So that's why we'll love God some days and not love him other days, right? Because that's how love works in the material world, right? I love you until you do something I don't like, or I'm not getting the same juice that I used to get, right? Before, when I started chanting Hare Krishna, I got some juice, I got some peace, got some happiness. Now 4 years have passed, I'm not getting any juice anymore. So why I should chant Hare Krishna? I'm not chant. So that's like dualistic love is like this. So that's because we haven't integrated the vision of oneness in our psyches and our hearts. So so that becomes problem also. So this should be integrated in our hearts. And when someone is talking to us, it is Brahman speaking to us. Of course, you don't want to go too far and become a Mayavadi. Gotta be careful. So there's all this balances here like this. And balance, you have to integrate it with proper understanding of the tattva. But many times if you see this, like sometimes people are talking to me, and we're talking even something mundane or not exactly like on spiritual subject matter, but they'll say something that speaks directly to like some insecurity that I have, or some like not knowing, they don't even know what's going on in my mind, but they just say something that's like directly addressing an insecurity that I have, or you know, like kind of putting me on the spot, not on purpose. They're just speaking casually, but it happens. Then I can understand how Brahman is doing, Brahman, the Supreme Lord, talking to me through this person. He's saying this thing. So that's when that oneness vision starts to come. Or who is that? The people who beat the executioners who beat Haridas Thakur. How come he doesn't have any animosity toward them? So this vision of oneness is coming. He was thinking, oh, I heard some aparad of Vishnu and Vaishnavas. And because I heard that aparad and I tolerated it. I didn't respond, I tolerated it. So now the Lord has come in the form of these executioners to punish me for that aparad. I'm just like, yo, I'm on Facebook. I actually stopped going on Facebook a lot these days because I'm scared of Facebook. I'm not trying to get beat in 22 marketplaces. I'm not trying to get beat in one marketplace. So, but he was not having any animosity towards these people because he saw God has come in this feature to punish me. That's the humility, you can say. Or you can also say his vision of seeing God everywhere. So this is an interesting verse. I like this verse. Paravaresham paramam prak prasiddham ta brahma tad hetur atamyatekam. This is the last part of the verse. There are many causes high and low, but since he is the cause of all causes, he is well known as the supreme Brahman who existed before all activities. So there's a translation of this line. Paravaresham, he is the Lord of the high and the low, of cause and effect, of pradhan and prakriti and so on. Paramam prak, so he is the supreme origin of that. Prasiddham, this is well known. And then the last line here, he is one without a second and has no other cause. I therefore offer my respects unto him. Ta Brahma tad hetur ananyam ekam. So he is the ekam. Ekam means the one. So there is no other reality that is like him. There's nothing else that exists that is the cause of itself, so to speak, or self-existing, and the origin of everything, in whom everything resides, from whom everything is coming, by whom everything is done, unto whom everything is offered. So there's no other reality like this. So that is the meaning of ekam, ananya dekam. So there's no other reality that is like that. So he is the ekam, he is the one reality that is like that. Tadetur, he is the cause of everything, that Brahman. So this is a very nice verse. So how come people don't agree to this? So this is the last verse, and this tasmai namo ananta gunaya bhumne. My obeisances unto the Lord who is ananta gunaya, he has infinite qualities. So this line applies to the previous two verses. That's what we heard also 2 verses ago. So he's offering his obeisances to this personality. He has an unlimited qualities. So we've been hearing about some of them. So yachaktayo vadetam vadinam vai vivada samvada bhuvo bhavanti kurvanti chaisham muhuratma moham tasmai namo nanta gunaya bhumne. This verse is very popular. It's quoted by our acharyas quite a bit in their works. So my obeisances unto the Lord who is Ananta Gunaya, he has infinite qualities. So who Shakti, Yachaktayo, because of his Shakti, Vadatam Vadinam Vavi Vada Samvada Bhuvo Bhavanti. Through his Shakti, the different philosophers. So Vaditam means the different philosophers. Vadinam, they're speaking so many things. Vivada samvada bhuvo. Sometimes they agree with each other. Sometimes they're disagreeing with each other. How they are doing this? Kurvanti chaisham muhur atmahoham. They are continuously atmamoham, forgetful of their own self due to the Shakti of the Lord. Yachaktayo. So Yachaktayo means here Maya Shakti. Because of the Lord's Maya Shakti, the souls are atmamoham. They are forgetful of their own selves. And therefore, they start propounding so many theories about existence. Kurvanti cha esham. They start creating so many theories and bewildering the poor living entities who don't know anything. And they get funding and then start propagating, doing mass propaganda. And the living entities are in so much ignorance that we become victims of the propaganda. Prabhupada and the Acharyas, of course, they mention the popular philosophers of their times. And today, the popular philosophers are found on TED Talks and YouTube videos, and also the scientists. So they make propaganda, making so many philosophies, and other people argue with them and disagree. And in this way, a big force of delusion is created. If you become a devotee, yadate moha kalilam, bhudev yatatarishati, tadagantansi nirvedam, shotavyasya shutashava. Krishna says when the intelligence is passed out of this forest of delusion, there Krishna is talking about the flowery words of the Vedas. He calls it as a moha kalilam, the dense forest of delusion. I think Prabhupada translates it like this. So now we are in another dense forest of delusion, all these various theories. So when the intelligence is passed beyond that, tadag gantansi nirvedam, then you become nirveda, which means callous, shotavyasya shutashava. Of all the things that you have heard and all the things that you will hear in the future, you become callous to that. Knowing these people are just speculating. These souls are atma moham. They don't even know their own self. So whatever theories they propound must be from the reference point of the false imposition of the body-mind complex, right? From that reference point, you have to determine everything. So then what you'll speak all nonsense things, actually. Even if you happen to speak some sense, but you're speaking it from the platform of nonsense. So then final summary is you're nonsense. So devotees should not become bewildered by so many theories. Rather, they should hear from the Hamsaguya prayers about the true tattva regarding the Supreme Lord, his existence and the relationship of things to him, and become fixed in that understanding. And in that way, give up shoka, moha, and bhaya, right? Yasya Vaishuryamananam, Krishna Paramapurushe, Bhaktarutpatyate Pungsa Shoka Mohabhayapa. You hear Srimad Bhagavatam and understand the Supreme Purusha Krishna. Then you'll get real bhakti in your heart. Bhav Bhakti, Sadhya Bhakti, Prem Bhakti, you'll get in your heart. And there'll be no more Shoka Moha Bhaya. So if you have Shoka Moha Bhaya, if any of us have Shoka Moha Bhaya, that's because we're not hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and integrating its meanings. First you should hear, then you should deliberate, right? Shrotavya, then there's manatavya, manana, and then there's nididhyasana. First you hear, then you should deliberate on the meaning of what you heard so you can integrate its meaning. And then you should, nididhyasana means do the sadhana with that integrated understanding. Come to the level of Bhav Bhakti. Then there'll be no more shoka, moha, or bhaya, lamentation, fear, illusion. So if we have any of these things, that's because we're not hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Or we're hearing, we're not integrating. We hear, as soon as class gets over, we forget everything. So now we have to walk around. From today's class, we should walk around and see everyone as little Brahmins walking around, right? Little Brahmins talking to us. Brahman is being distributed to us in the forms of food. And we're doing some work that is also being offered unto Brahman. And this way, walk around the vision of Brahman. For one day, try it out. I don't think I'll be able to do it for even 1 hour, but I'll try for the next hour at least. And that way, be situated in fearlessness and the sublimity of God consciousness. All right, I'm finishing with that here. Prabhupada writes a lot here in the purport, but he's basically saying that because these people, they are averse to the Lord. They have tat vaimukya, they've turned away from God. So because of that, they become demons. And then from their demonic position, they start propagating many philosophies, bewildering the living entities. And then Prabhupada says they get punished for that, life after life. They take on different hellish species. And then he glorifies the actual position of the Lord. Yeah, so to propagate a philosophy, not a good idea, unless you really know what you're talking about. In the Ishopanishad, you must have read Prabhupada's Ishopanishad. I like his Ishopanishad because he's very heavy in Ishopanishad. And in one place, he says all these people who become gurus, they make it very difficult for the pure devotees to preach. So he says they're going to the most obnoxious place in the universe after their guru business is completed, which they conduct for sense gratification. So to be a teacher means, what is that? Shabda parecha nishnatam brahmani upashamashrayam, right? Srimad Bhagavatam is telling, to be a teacher, you should be bathing in the shastra, shabda praman, shabda parecha nishnatam. So shabda nishnatam and pare nishnatam. Pare nishnatam means bathing in the transcendence, the actual vision of the Godhead as one and different as far as our philosophy is concerned. Then you can become a teacher. You will speak nicely. So anyway, assuming that position is always a little bit dangerous. So we should try to hear from Parampara and speak. And Prabhupada's purport is like this. Okay, I'm going to stop there. These are only 2 verses I had time to study this morning. Would like to have gone on a little bit, but so we can take any comment or question if anyone. Norse, okay. Norse, all right, yeah, that's right. It was Norse mythology. Odin, so on. Okay, anyone wants to ask any question or make any comment? You can say one thing. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hello, how do you?
Hey, glad to have you back. So 2 things. One, oh man, it's leaving me. Oh yeah, okay. Whenever you were talking about when we offer obeisances, we're just offering obeisances to the Paramatma. My question is, then why is there different instructions on who we should offer obeisance to and how we should do it? Like, for example, in the nectar of instruction, offering obeisances in the mind versus in person. If we're all offering obeisances to the Paramatma, why does it make a difference who the Paramatma is within?
Yeah, that's a good question. The reason for that is because instructions are given according to Adhikar, right? So you'll have an instruction in the Bhagavatam, for example, in the 11th canto, chapter 29, there's an instruction. Let me see if I could pull it up. Basically, the instruction is that you should offer obeisances to everything and everyone until you're situated in the awareness that Brahman is there, right? Let me see. I'm just going to pull this verse up. It's been a while since I heard its referenced or quoted. And here. Okay, give me a second. Cat, dog. I think there's a, yeah, here we go. I'll share my screen. Oops. You can see nice verses here. How anyone would have time for this, but anyway, it says, disregarding the ridicule of one's companions, one should give up the bodily conception and its accompanying embarrassment. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, outcasts, cows, and asses, falling flat upon the ground like a rod. Until one has fully developed the ability to see me within all living beings, one must continue to worship me by this process with the activities of his speech, mind, and body. So there's actually an instruction for those who are coming into Brahman consciousness, if I remember properly from the commentary. So given that that's true, I have to go and double check that, but given that's true, that means that instruction is given according to the adhikar of that individual Gyani. So for bhaktas, we have different adhikar. And part of development of our adhikar is we have to give up bad association, and especially association where there is offense to the Lord or his devotees, right? Sevanam aparadhanam ubhava bhava karita. That's one of the angas to be followed by avoidance. So when Rupa Goswami gives an instruction like Krishneti Yashagirita Manasadriyeta, he's telling us, he's informing us that there are different types of association there. So the way the commentaries are on that particular verse that you're giving as an example, some devotees are to be given up or to be respected within the mind from a distance. That means that these types of devotees, they are bad association, or that means they do aparad, or they have some misconception. Maybe they have a blend of mayavad and devotion or something like that. So if you do association with them, then their qualities will come to you. You'll become baffled, or you'll become an aparadi. So these sort of persons are to be respected within the mind. So there's also the vision of Brahman is there with those living entities, but you're relating to that Brahman according to his position. Just like Brahman is also there in the lion, but you're not going to embrace him. Say, hey, you are Brahman also, my dear Brahman friend. You will not embrace the lion. You relate according to his position. So similarly, then diksheti cha pranatabish cha bhajantamisham. So that's the line. If those who have taken diksha from proper guru, which means it is assumed they understand sambandha gyan, prayojan gyan, abhidaya gyan nicely. So then those persons, they said we should offer pranams to them or obeisances to them, and they are properly situated. And for those who are shushushayo, bhajana vignam ananyan anya shundadi nindadi shunya hride ipsita sankalapya. Those who are advanced in bhajan and likely having darshan of the Supreme Lord, and their hearts are completely free from the tendency to criticize, then they are should be surrendered to. So these instructions are given according to Adhikar. So that verse also, this fifth verse, this is for a Madhyam Adhikari. So this verse is coming from Bhagavatam, Ishvara Tadadineshu. What is that? Who knows that verse? Madhyam Adhikari verse. Oh my God, why am I forgetting that? Ishvara Tadadineshu. What's the next line? Diksha Shutra. Maitri. No. This is the third line. Bala, I'm forgetting the verse. Prema Maitri Upopeksha. Something Madhyama Bhagavatam. I'm forgetting the shloka. I haven't quoted in a while. So this verse for the Madhyam Adhikari, he is seeing God everywhere through his knowledge, but he relates differently according to the target. So for the target that is God, he worships him with prema. That's the verse says, prema. For the devotees, he develops friendship, intimate friendship with them. For the ignorant, he shows kindness. And for the envious, he shows neglect. Well, aren't they all Brahmin, or Brahmin is there? Yes, they are. But according to his adhikar, he has to relate. So if you are Uttam Bhagavat devotee, so like Prahlad Maharaj, then you can also talk to Hiranyakashipu. And when he starts executing you or trying to execute you, you will not have any bad feeling for him. You will continue to speak Bhagavad Gita. So the Uttama Bhagavats, they can act like that because they have adhikar like that. But for the Madhyam adhikar, if he tries to speak to a Hiranyakashipu, and then Hiranyakashipu says, kill him, then you'll have bad feeling toward him because your adhikar doesn't allow for that resisting that. So instructions are given according to qualification. So we're just informed here that Brahman is everywhere. We have to try to see it in that way. But then we have to try to develop that vision progressively by acting according to our adhikar. So then different instructions according to our adhikar are given so that we may develop into that awareness more and more and more like this. Otherwise, you see these new agers, you can see they try to be like that. All is love. Oh, let's embrace everyone. Love is, allow love to be. And then when you say, I disagree with you, they say, kill him. All you have to say, I disagree, and they become sad because they don't have that vision. So Prabhupada Ishapanishad, he also criticizes people that talk about universal brotherhood without being situated in the consciousness of Brahman. He says they are false philanthropists, and he gives some other, pejoratives for these sorts of people. So yes, that it may be the truth what you speak, but now you have to relate to that truth according to your position, and you have to develop your relation with that truth so that you can be situated on awareness. So for that reason, these different instructions will come.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That makes a lot of sense. And just a quick follow-up on that, because you mentioned the Uttama, the Madhyama, and those who are trying to attain Brahman realization. Kanishta's Adhikar, they offer obeisance to all Vaishnavas, right? Since they can't discern yet. Discerning comes at the stage of Madhyama, correct?
Yeah, well, according to Bhagavatam, they don't offer respect to anybody. Means except for the deity and maybe their guru, maybe. And then for the rest of the people, the Bhagavatam says they don't know how to relate to the bhaktas or the people in general. They don't have so much respect, so they have to develop their consciousness. But it is certainly advisable for them to show respect for everyone. But they have to show a deference to their guru, who is protecting them and helping them develop their conscious. So they will show deference to the guru, like a special deference to the guru. And then a general respect towards all other entities, because they're not exactly qualified to just embrace every association without getting bewildered, at least. If they try that, they become bewildered. So they will show special predilection toward their own guru or gurus. You know, there may be Shiksha gurus or Shravan gurus there. They will show special predilection. So they are learning from them. I'm learning from them, and I have to improve myself. So these are my guardians. I give special predilection to them. But it is advisable for them to have a general respect for the rest of the living entities. Non-devotees and devotees alike, they have a general respect. They may not associate with them so intimately, but a general respect. But what is usually observed is that they don't know how to behave with bhaktas and people in general because of their neophyte status. So they have to improve in that.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. And I have one more question. I'm kind of synthesizing. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of synthesizing what you've said in the past about Bhagavad Gita 10:10, about how that applies to like really advanced level devotees, like bhava something, I can't remember the term fully. And like how you were talking about how people say like, oh yeah, the super soul told me this, super soul, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, you're not on that level yet. But today we're hearing like, if we're seeing everything as Brahman, every conversation could be like Brahman. So like, there's like, I'm starting to synthesize that 10:10 is talking about like an advanced, like direct instruction, and seeing like, for example, a book distribution and seeing like, oh yeah, Paramatma was happening between us. Like maybe they're just talking about, you know, seeing the non-dual Brahmanness in every interaction they have. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. Well, so basically, the 10:10, the word we use bhava samanvita, because in Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita 10:8, that verse is coming, right? Krishna says, I'm the source of the matter and spiritual world. Iti matva bhajanti mam. And those who know this about me worship me, and they are Buddha, they are wise, and bhava samanvita, they're infused with bhav. And the way Prabhupada normally takes that is they develop bhav bhakti, sadhya bhakti. So then talking about how these, now Bhavuka devotees, they are also sadhakas, right? They're not yet considered as siddhas, but they're not the sadhakas of sadhana bhakti, because the goal of sadhana is bhava, kriti, sadhya, bhavat, sadhya bhava, sadhana bhida. But they're also called as sadhakas because there's still some fault of the effects of aparad there. So then they develop this bhava, and then do their bhav sadhana, vachitta makata pranam bodhayantu parasparam, katayan tashamam nityam tu shanti charamanticha. So what is their bhav sadhana? They gather together with like-minded devotees, sajati yashaye shnikde, and Srimad Bhagavatam artana, what is that? Aswado rasikai saha. They gather with other like-minded devotees, like-minded affection devotees, and they relish in the meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam from one another. Parasparam and Katayam Tashamam Nityam. And they're getting great satisfaction and bliss. Then Tesham, so of these types of devotees, Satatam Yuktanam, they're pretty much 10% engaged in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, they're doing the bhajan with Priti, it means Bhav Bhakti. Then Dadami Buddha Yogam Tam, I give the divine intelligence by which they come to me, to the final perfection of their, devotion, their purpose, prema. He gives divine intelligence. So we want to come to that level where that type of deep communion is made possible with the Godhead. But previously to that, we are hearing from the bhaktas, like we heard today from Hamsa Guya prayers, that actually all is Krishna only. So to the degree we are able to hold that vision in our heart and interact with the world, that is very good. Then we're becoming, that is basically the practice of smarnam, right? Smarnam bhakti, right? You're remembering God everywhere. So usually when we act with the world of duality, progressively throughout the day, we forget God, right? First, it starts with, class, we're doing good, japa, we're doing good. Then class gets over, then we say, okay, I'm gonna have a little breakfast now. And our forgetfulness begins from there. Then Frank comes in the room, he starts speaking some nonsense, but it's very funny. So then forgetfulness increases. And that way, every subsequent hour, the forgetfulness is going strong. But if we can hold this thing that we hear from the sadhus in our heart while interacting with the world, oh, this is all Brahman actually. And that's like basically like a smarnam practice. You're remembering Krishna, basically. And that sort of remembrance will get you to the bhava samavita point. And then your communion with God will become even deeper. So that is also advisable. So the Dhamma Buddha Yoganta may not be the communion of the Bhavuka devotees, but it is the communion of the Sadhaka devotees. A real Sadhaka. Who is a real Sadhaka? Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavyo Najatu Chit. Sarva Vidhi Nisheda Shur Etayor Eva Kankara, right? The real Sadhaka is one who always remembers Krishna, Smartavyan Satatam Vishnu. Vismartavyo Najatu Chit. And he never forgets Krishna. This is called as a Sadhaka. This is a real Sadhaka. Sarva Vidhi Nisheda Shur. All the rules and prohibitions that you find in scripture is only to facilitate this. So this is real sadhana, where you hold that what we hear, Shruti Dara. Shruti Dara means one who holds in his heart what he has heard. It's called Shruti Dhar. One who holds what he hears inside is called Shruti Dhara. Right? Just like Govardhana Dhari. One who is holding the great Govardhan hill. This word Dhara. He's holding what he hears in his mind. And by holding what he hears in his mind, that informs his vision of everything. That is called as a sadhaka. So what we are describing in the class today, without bhava, is like the sadhana of a sadhaka. It is the communion of a sadhaka. That's the word I wanted to use. It is the communion of a sadhaka. So yeah, maybe he's not having direct darshan or necessarily direct inspiration where super soul is like, hey, do this. But he's also having communion because he's Shruti Dhara. He's holding what he has heard in his heart and his memory, Smartavya. He's remembering Satatam all the time. And so when he's talking to living entities, he, in a sense, it's like God is talking to him in some way. He may find lessons everywhere, like the Avadhu Brahmana who saw 24 gurus. Everywhere he was finding some lesson, finding God speaking to him. This is the communion of a sadhaka. And the communion of a bhavuka a little bit deeper. So the Dhamma Buddha Yogam Tam, as far as I understand, is talking about that communion of a bhavuka devotee. And then he comes to the final perfection. But we can also have communion with God, but we have to hold. It's a little bit, because it's a little unnatural for us. Because our natural state is forgetfulness of Krishna. So it's a little unnatural for us, but we can commune with God through sadhana bhakti. So this is this holding what we hear from Gurudev constantly in our memory. Then you may say, oh, God is talking to me. Even when the conversation is not directly God conscious, you can see God is talking to me actually, even here, even now. It happens. I'll tell you, honestly, it happens. I mean, yeah, whenever you remember God, you're directly connecting to him, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam. right? These angas of bhakti are called as Swarup Siddha Bhakti. They are directly bhakti. So as soon as anyone contacts it, they're directly associating with God. That's what we say. Anyone who chants Hare Krishna, they're directly associating with Krishna. That's what we say, to the very new person. God's name is up. So remembrance is like this also. So you may be having a mundane conversation with your friend, and in the course of that conversation, you suddenly start to remember God. And then the whole way that conversation impacts you changes because now there's a communion happening with God. I don't know how else to say. You may not believe it's not, but it happens like this. You may be talking mundane thing also, but in the course of that, you suddenly remember God. And it just somehow it comes to you. You hold that remembrance in your heart while the conversation is going on. Then you'll hear what's behind the words. And who is behind the words of everything? That is Vishnu. That is God. He's behind every word that's being spoken in the world. The words being composed of Maya, they hide his glory. Like the curtain of Yoga Maya, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yoga Maya Samavrita. He's hidden behind the curtain of Yoga Maya. But if you do Smartam Bhakti, you remember him, then it's like a little peekaboo. He like look behind the curtain. And although the mundane words may be spoken, but now you're hearing something different because the communion is happening. And it's a little, anyway, that is my personal lived experience. That sadhana, remembrance is also a type of communion. So just as doing chanting Hare Krishna or even doing Shravanam, these are all forms of communion with God. So yeah, may not be the communion of the Bhav Bhakta, but it is a communion of the Sadhaka. So that is very good also. But that sort of communion is also very hard for us. So we have to work on it. Jai Ho. Okay, anyone else wants to say anything? Or comment anything, question anything? Okie dokie. Then we'll stop here this morning. Thank you all very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Hayam Tot Sat. Thanks a lot. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Gaudiya Guru Varga ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari